Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And another heavyweight news and notes mashup video today, and quite a bit going on, starting with Joyce, whose opponent for the 2nd of July has been confirmed as Christian Hammer, as you can see here from the Frank Warren promo graphic for the 2nd July show. Joyce and Hammer. We'll get to the quotes from Warren and Joyce, etc., and then on to a few thoughts, because it's okay, but it's not great. It's one of those sort of things that I think at short notice it's fine, but not the sort of opponent Joyce probably would have been hoping to face for his next fight. So Warren says the most important thing is to get Joyce active and confident again after injury. Christian Hammer is an experienced campaigner who will provide a decent test and give him a good fight, but obviously we expect Joe to come through it successfully and then start preparing for a bigger showdown later this year. It was well documented that it was our intention to match Big Joe with Joseph Parker in September, but Parker has now opted to sign a promotional agreement elsewhere. Joe's route to a world title shot does not revolve around Parker, and we have plans in place for a major fight for him in the autumn. Joyce says, I've known about Christian Hammer for a while now. He's fought everybody and it's going to be a good fight. He comes forward and it will be exciting. It is one to get me ready for the next fights coming up. I've been out of the ring for a whole year now, so it's good to dust off the gloves and shake off the cobwebs. It's going to be a big year, this year and next, with some great fights, and I just need to be in the right place. I have taken myself out to the right place with this training camp here to bring out the best in me. So, a couple of quick thoughts. I mean, they're talking up it's going to be a good fight, and Hammer's a really good test, all this sort of stuff. Hammer at this point is a name and really nothing more. His ambition has been falling like a sack of potatoes off a cliff in recent years. He comes for the payday and he's uber negative and he will not try to win. So I'm not expecting Joyce to have any real problems with this, because Christian Hammer is going to come to survive. He's going to try not to get knocked out, and Joyce will walk away with a win. It certainly has been diminishing returns for Christian Hammer in recent years in terms of his ambition, the way that he fights, and certainly how much that I want to see him anymore. Some of these fights that he's had in recent times have not been good. The one against Frank Sanchez was particularly dire, and I expect this one here, because Joyce comes forward, he's got a good motor, he'll throw punches. Hammer will want to, he's kind of becoming like the new Kevin Johnson, the guy that will just shell up and try to not really take too much punishment and get out no worse for wear, is what it is, I guess. Meanwhile, Joseph Parker is still calling out Joyce, along also Dillian Whyte, as you can see here from the headline. So it's not the Whyte stuff that I was particularly interested in the story that's from New Zealand Media News Hub, the Joyce stuff, because what I will say before I get to the quotes, and then I'll circle back with some comments, is either Joseph Parker is extremely naive or he's just taking us for fools with some of his comments. So, getting to Joseph Parker's comments about Joyce, I know I can knock anyone out. I just have to land that punch. I know I haven't shown it in recent times, but the time will come where I start landing the big shots. He's been rocked a few times and saying that if I do everything well in training camp, prepare the best I can do everything right. I know there's a lot more to give and a lot more to show. I just need more time with Andy Lee. I need more time in the UK to work on these things. I can do the business on Joyce. That's a fight that can still happen, the Joyce fight. I know that Ben Shalom is in talks with Frank Warren and his team, and Joyce and his team, so it's a fight that we can make. It was a goal of mine to be champion of the world, and I did achieve it thanks to everyone involved who helped me get there. But this time I want to be champion, and I'm doing it for myself and for my own family. I feel like the passion and the motivation is a lot more than what I had before. I can't really pinpoint how it's going to happen, but I reckon 2 or 3 fights and then I can do it again. I can't wait to be back fighting top guys. I can't wait to be back in the UK. The fans there are the best I've seen. September, October, we've got something lining up very soon. So those comments there, and he still thinks it's a fight that can be made with Joe Joyce. I just don't get it. I mean, who are you kidding, Joseph Parker? Seriously, who are you kidding? If you wanted the Joe Joyce fight, it was there. You didn't have to sign with Boxer. You just had to have a one-fight deal with Joe Joyce at Queensbury. You could have just signed directly with that promoter to get that fight done if you wanted the fight. But then you make it automatically a zillion times harder by signing with Boxer. Do you really think that Frank Warren and Queensbury and BT want to have some sort of deal with Sky Sports and Boxer to get that fight done? It's a good fight, it's a decent fight, but it's not the biggest fight in the world. I don't think they could justify having some sort of cross-promotional, sort of a cross-broadcaster type deal, because it's not Fury versus Joshua. So the comments to me either sound naive in the extreme, or it's actually Joseph Parker's taking us for fools. I mean, a lot of people have commented, and I've seen it, that Parker signing to Boxer was a bit odd because they don't have really any heavyweights. I mean, obviously there's Dillian Whyte who could come in there to fight Parker on pay-per-view. You also have Hughie Fury there, but that's it. Joseph Parker voluntarily put himself on an island, and it made it so much harder to make the Joyce fight. Actually, pretty much nigh on impossible as long as he's with Sky and Boxer. So the talk of Ben Shalom, the promoter of Boxer, talks with Frank Warren to get that done. I just can't see it. Unless Parker is going to be loaned out to BT and Frank Warren for that fight. But can you see Sky wanting to do that after just signing Parker? And let's face it, the reason he went to Sky was for money. He was getting a better deal, or had been promised a better deal and probably pay-per-view for going there. But the thing is, it won't be Joyce. So is Parker just treating us like fools at this point, trying to say that's a fight he still wants, but then walked away from and signed somewhere else? I mean, it's weird. Do you find that weird? I do. It's like Joseph Parker's mugging us off here. Then you have some comments from Joseph Parker about Tyson Fury, that he's backing him to beat Alexander Usyk or Anthony Joshua from the winner of that rematch. So Parker says those are both great fighters, Joshua and Usyk. I just see Tyson being too much for them. Everyone's going to say I'm biased because I train with Tyson and we're very close. If I step back as a friend and think boxing, he's too much. Able to put pressure, able to fight on the back foot, a very good mover. If he does get the opportunity to fight either of those guys, I think he'd knock them out. It's Joseph Parker talking to Sky Sports. But his buddy Tyson Fury, who's hinted at a comeback and still holds the WBC title of his most recent opponent Dillian Whyte, has gone in on him for some comments Whyte made after the fight. Fury saying, it's a bit of a letdown, to be fair, because on the night he didn't make any excuses, like the old Bronze Bomber, and then the next day he came out with a load of BS after the fight about being pushed over and his head hitting the canvas. I watched it. He got chinned and he was going to topple on me, so I just shoved him off, and his head didn't hit the canvas or floor. Watch the video back and you'll see his head never once touched the canvas or floor. I don't know what video he has, but the ones I've seen show it was a one-sided beatdown and knockout. I said a prayer for him before the fight, and I prayed for his best performance and that both men get out of the ring safely, and we did that. There's no disrespect from me for Dillian Whyte. The man tried his best in there. In boxing, people only remember you as being good as your last fight. Dillian went in and tried his best and wasn't good enough, and there's no shame in that. We should just be embarrassed about these silly comments afterwards. So I'll just cut it off there. So I think Fury's right in terms of the excuses. It did sound a bit weak from Dillian Whyte. There was a push, but Dillian Whyte, his soul had been taken by the uppercut. And Fury's right. I watched multiple replays after Whyte hit the canvas, and his head didn't hit the canvas from what I saw. And I mean, I said that in a video at the time. So I agree with him. It didn't seem, Dillian Whyte, like a lot of fighters, wants to rationalize why he lost. So this is why some of these things were said. Sometimes these guys, as Fury referenced, Deontay Wilder, they go way over the top with stuff. But if Dillian Whyte thinks that the push was crucial to his loss against Tyson Fury, then he is being deluded, and he's also admitting that he's a literal pushover. Moving on, Tyson Fury on keeping the WBC title. I'm not going to give it up. I've got 12 months. I'll just keep it as long as possible. I'll keep that in my pocket as long as I want. I'm not holding this division up because I own it. This is my division. Also from the guy who says he's currently retired, but this is his division and he's not going to vacate that title. Also having hinted, as in another video from this week that I reported on, Fury saying that potentially he will unretire. Whether this retirement is legit or not, people have their own views. As I've consistently said, I think he's coming back, but I don't even think this retirement's real. Okay, so moving on to Michael Hunter, who's mooted the idea of a potential fight with Joseph Parker, retweeting what a fan had suggested. And I looked at that and I thought, nah, not happening, not realistic, it's not going to get made. If you think about it, and I was having a discussion with someone on Twitter about this, if Joseph Parker is signed to Sky Sports in the UK, presumably the idea is to match him with local fighters, UK fighters, to make sure that they can get the most bang for buck from the deal that they've come up with Parker. They get him in with a UK guy who can be sold to the local audience in the UK, and then obviously Parker would be on pay-per-view back in New Zealand. So this is how they're trying to sort of, recoup money in relation to Joseph Parker. There were a few names that had thrown out by different people for Parker in a next fight and all that sort of stuff. But my suggestion is that it is going to be someone from the UK, someone who's a name, and this is why I strongly feel that it's probably going to be Dillian Whyte. Other names like Michael Hunter and other people had suggested to me someone like Robert Helenius. Can you really make that work for Sky Sports and Boxer in the UK? Be different if it was just somewhere else and, that sort of stuff. But we're talking big money involved, and it's not going to do well on pay-per-view, those sorts of fights with two non-UK guys, if you're trying to have it as pay-per-view, as a main event in the United Kingdom. Different if it's just a fight night and you just give them a big sum of cash, but can they justify that? I don't think so. So staying with Michael Hunter, so Cash Ali had called him out on Twitter saying, you can jump in with me if you want, but be warned, I punch very hard. And then Michael Hunter responds, lunch meat. And I do think that Hunter beats Cash Ali, and probably not with too many troubles. And Hunter in another tweet had said, on the positive side, and this is of the pullout from Huey Fury, he says, I might have some abs by the time I see this bum. Back to work, #hunting season. And someone actually did comment down below that so-called bum would arguably be his best win. And they're right. They are right. Demsey McKean has been confirmed on Matchroom's first Australian show, and you can see here on screen this is a post from Eddie Hearn discussing the card, which will be headlined by Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis, also Sky Nicholson on the card. But of Demsey McKean, it was always a case that Matchroom signed him with some goal and intention in mind. And as I said in the previous video to this, he would probably be on the show, but who would it be against? We're still to find out. Says a big heavyweight fight. I'm not necessarily convinced it's going to be anyone good. Hopefully a step up from his past couple of international fights that he had with Matchroom that were pretty low tier sort of opposition. But I wait with interest to see who it is. They obviously have some plans for these different fighters. So I think while they're still trying to build their brand, they kind of want to have McKean probably matched quite safely because they have an intention to use him again. I just kind of think of that model that they had with guys like Fabio Turchi in Italy. It was pretty safe matchmaking, and I kind of think for McKean, they'll want him in a big fight at some point, but not quite yet. So I'm not expecting a whole lot, but I'm happy to be surprised. It's Nathan Gorman Fight Week, and you can see here Gorman with Thomas Selleck. So this is a Wasserman boxing card. It's on Channel 5. To be honest, it's not a great card. Gorman will wash Thomas Selleck. and he needs to do it pretty quickly because this is not a good opponent. And it's a shame that Nathan Gorman doesn't really seem to be getting any decent fights at this point. There was some optimism after he left Frank Warren, where he was a spare part there, that he would go into something bigger and better, but it's the same old again here. Also on that card, you've got prospect Matty Harris, big 6'8" guy, Hosea Stewart as well. I did check on BoxRec last night, and it was still TBC for those guys at that point. Even if the name has been confirmed now, they're under 5 fights. It's not going to be anyone good, but still good to see them. I mean, remembering Hosea Stewart debuted at 345 pounds. He said, Jarrell Miller, hold my bear. So it'll be interesting to see if he can come down a bit, because obviously, that's a whole lot, and it's not going to serve him that well at the upper echelon if he can ever make it there. Fabio Wardley has been confirmed, along with Solomon Dacres, both promo posters here. Fabio Wardley saying, fight announcement, back fighting at my home away from home, the iconic O2 Arena on the 9th of July on the undercard of Chisora Pulev 2. And you have Solomon Dacres, July 9, saying fight confirmed on the undercard of Chisora Pulev 2, the O2 in London. Pretty similar messages, actually. At this point, because it's the 17th of June as I record this, 5:35 a.m. No opponents for both, unlikely to be any good. I guess at this point, it sort of seems to be for this card. They're trying to make it heavyweight heavy. Hearn's trying to repeat that formula that he's done in the past, but I'm just not sure they've got the heavyweights to make the sort of heavyweight cards that they once could. I mean, thinking back to that Joseph Parker, Dillian Whyte card that had, was Chisora on the undercard? I can't remember, but Dave Allen was a stacked card. I think they're trying to go for that sort of vibe, but I don't think the matchups for the undercard fighters, at least, are going to be too much chop. I mean, they're still developing these guys and bringing them along, and it's probably at the point where... And it's not at the point for any of these guys like Wardley and Solomon Dacres. Dacres only got a few fights on the ledger. They're not going to be anything like 50-50s. And moving on to another fight announcement, you've got Kevin Lerena, the former cruiserweight who recently fought Bogdan Dinu. He's back 17th of September versus Mariusz Wach. So I don't mind this for Lerena, having come up from cruiserweight. He's still acclimating to the heavyweight division. Wach at this point is pretty washed. He's still durable, though. He can still go rounds, and Kevin Lerena is going to have to really work on him to try to break him down to get him out of there. And this, certainly with Mariusz Wach fights, for the most part, you expect it to go to points and for it to be a decision for Wach's opponent. So we'll see. He's going to have to work for the win. And promoter Rodney Berman believes Wach is coming here with an entourage of 5 people, which tells me he is serious about the fight. With the dollar-rand exchange rate being what it is, it has become a headache to get a credible opponent. We're forced to roll the dice. Yeah, I guess exchange rates, all that stuff, it's tough. But Lerena and Wach, I don't mind that for Kevin Lerena. And if he can get through that and look good, then obviously he starts to become a bit of a name that you maybe want to see in bigger fights. That Dinu performance, it was decent. And now Mariusz Wach up next. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.